Hey everybody, I'm John at Click Cards. It's Saturday, August 12th. Hope you're all doing well. Having a pretty nice weekend so far. I know I've been a little light on the video department this week. I've been waiting for my SGC order to come in. I've got two actually out. One finally got the grades for yesterday, Friday, late in the day. Should have that back here at home on Monday. And then I have one other order. Hopefully, I'll get middle to late next week, as it's been, it's been 2 full weeks now since I dropped them off at the National. But what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show 5 cards. Four of them are just little 60s pickups I got at one of my LCSs here in town yesterday. And then one pre-war card, actually a tobacco card, T205, that I'm excited to show. That I got on eBay actually not long after I got back from the National. Just it was a cool little, it's a nice card. Look forward to showing it, and there's a little bit of a story I'm going to share that goes with it. So I'll flip the camera around and get right to it. Hang on a sec. All right, here's the first of the 4 cards I picked up in my LCS yesterday. If you've watched several of my videos, or even maybe 1 or 2 videos, if you've chosen the right ones to watch, which I thank you for, you probably have an idea that I kind of like manager cards, or cards of either current managers at the time of the card or players who became managers later. I don't know. There's just something about that just kind of spanning the generations in the game that just kind of appeals to me. So I found 3 yesterday at my LCS, just rummaging through some singles boxes that just kind of stood out, jumped out a little bit. Cards themselves are in pretty good shape, so I picked out 3 here. Here's the first one, 1960 Topps Chuck Tanner. He played for a few different teams. I think his best year was in 1957. He played for a couple of teams that year. I believe the Cubs was one of them. Can't remember the other one offhand now. Kind of a bench guy mostly. I guess maybe at best he was sort of in a platoon role for a short time. Very successful managing career. He managed the 1979 Pirates, the World Series championship. Managed the Chicago White Sox for several years in the 70s. Before then, also Oakland for a year, right after their, early mid 70s success. He managed them in 1976, and then managed the Braves for a couple of years after his, most successful tenure with the Pirates. Again, 1979 World Series winning manager with Pittsburgh. Thought I'd pick that up for $3. No problem there. Next one, I got 2 more to show in terms of future managers, both from 1962 Topps. And here's the World Series winning manager from the following year after Chuck Tanner, 1980 Phillies manager. And here, Phillies pitcher, Dallas Green, from 1962 Topps. I pitched about maybe 6 or 7 years in the bigs, but mostly kind of like 4 or 5 years with the Phillies were kind of his main contributions at the big league level. Mostly relief pitcher, big guy on the mound, 6'5". Looks like he was able to bring just some good stuff there for a while in a relief role. Was also a very successful executive. He was GM of the Cubs actually in the early to mid 80s, and kind of was the architect of their 84 division winner. So lots of success. He managed the Yankees briefly, unsuccessfully. And oh gosh, I believe he managed one more team after that, and it's escaping me who it was. Gosh, I looked it up and now it's escaping me the last team he managed. He did have one more managing stint, I believe, after the Yankees. But his most successful run was with the Phillies. Cool card of his there. What I like about this card is that it's taken a Connie Mack Stadium in the background there. Or I imagine it must be wearing the home uni. I like seeing backgrounds of stadiums, of ballparks, from yesteryear that, I never got to see growing up. Then the other card from 62 Topps I picked up yesterday was Felipe Alou. This is a really cool one. I like this one a lot. These 2 62s were $5 a piece, just in a singles box. I like having the 62. I'm thinking about picking up more 62 Giants cards because they won the NL pennant that year, and my dad and grandfather were still rooting for the San Francisco Giants at that time, even 5 years after they moved from New York. So I have a thought about maybe picking up some 62 Giants. And so here's one of them. And of course, Felipe Alou had a really nice major league career. It's a little cut off on the top there. You can see it's actually pretty close to a miscut almost because of that ball. It's really pretty off center up top, but it's just the point. Just that's not even a concern to me. It's just cool to have in the collection for $5. Managed Montreal, of course, for many years, and probably should have potentially, could have had a 1994 NL pennant winner there if they finished the season because he had an awesome team that year. But stars galore. The last card I picked up yesterday at my LCS was this really cool 1961 Topps checklist from the second series. Some people really like to collect checklists, and I have a couple. I have one from '69 Topps that has Mickey Mantle on it, so it's got to be one of his last cards, that he appears on from his playing era, although technically he was retired at that point in '69. But what I like about this one, it's got Ernie Banks on it right here. And then I had to look it up. I couldn't tell who this was at first. I was like, oh man, is it Eddie Matthews possibly? That would be pretty cool. And then I looked at it. The person in the shop of me, he actually had a loop on him. And so he looked it up, looked it really quick, and we were pretty sure it was number 9. And I looked it up. It's pretty sure it's Joe Adcock. So, a slugger on the Braves back then, along with Ernie Banks. I was like, yep, that's a pretty cool card to have and in pretty nice condition too. $8. Take it. Thought it was a cool card to get. And, not marked or anything like that either. There are actually several variations of this card too in terms of like how the number's shown. And I think the main one is the checklist lettering is also in red. I don't know which one is rarer, but that didn't appeal or matter to me in any way really, but I just thought the card was cool to have. So so those are the pickups I did yesterday. And then today, I'll leave them on the screen for a little longer. Then when I bring the next one on here, I'll take them off. Today I got in the mail my second T205 card. I just really like the T205s, the gold border tobacco cards from 1911, American Tobacco Company under a number of cigarette brands. I would be I'm not a smoker, never have been. So there's a small part of me that's like, I'm not sure if I like buying tobacco cards, and I won't have that many. But you know what? It's just it's the cards themselves these particular ones they're really really nice. The T205, the portraits, the way they did the NL portraits in particular, that are a little larger than the AL portraits, which have the batting field kind of design worked in, which actually I would like to get 1 or 2 of those as well at some point. But I found one in an auction, and I just decided to go for it because it's in really good shape for it's going to be at least the VG when I send it in to get graded at some point. And it's a known player from the time. I'll show it here in a second. He played on the So this card is from him. He's with the Cincinnati Reds in this picture, in this card. But he later played in the 1915 and 1916. He was with the Boston Red Sox on their World Series winning teams. And what I thought was the most interesting piece about his story was not only was he was sort of like a Renaissance guy. He was like a dentist apparently he was like, I don't think he went to dental school, but he was a dentist or something. Or maybe he did go to dental school, but supposedly he became a very successful dentist, and along with some other things he was involved with business-wise after baseball. But interestingly, in 1915, he was assigned to be Babe Ruth's roommate, which I thought was really interesting to I read the phrase to calm him down. Babe Ruth was just coming up. He was like a 20 or 21-year-old at that time, and he was already hugely successful as a pitcher for the Red Sox. And on the road, this player here, Richard Hoblitzel, I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly, was assigned to room with Babe Ruth on the road. I just thought that was cool. He was a veteran already at that point, since here he's in 1911 with Cincinnati. I'll show the back really quick. And here's another reason why I got this card. It's because it's got the Cycle Cigarettes brand on the bottom, which is among, I'll get these off camera now, which is among the scarce. I think there's one website that does like kind of like lists the T206 and T205. There's a couple sites I think, but there's one I saw that seems pretty detailed that kind of lists in percentages of commonality or how often you see potential particular brands on the backs. And Cycle is among the rarer ones. It's like it's not in rare. Rare apparently was like the toughest. Scarce is the next level of difficulty, and then it's like kind of rare. I can't remember what they called it, and then common. Cycle is in that. It's like 3%, roughly about 3% of all T205 backs. And that's at the time. By the time, in terms of when that web page I read was published, I can't remember the site, and I don't know how old the post is. But I imagine the percentage is probably pretty similar, roughly 3%, maybe a smidge higher. But at the time was 3% of backs with Cycle. So I just thought that was kind of neat, especially for the condition. And the auction wasn't like crazy out of control in terms of the eventual winning bid on this. I got this for roughly out the door about 115 to about 120. It was about 120 out the door with tax and shipping. So when I do get it graded, I'll be in for about 140. Because of the Cycle brand, I think I got a halfway. I think just trying to do my best to look at comps and stuff. I thought I got a decent deal on this in terms of what the bid turned out to be. I don't think I overpaid for this. I really don't. Based on what the Cycle brand tends to generate in terms of the prices it fetches, and this one's in pretty good shape. So I'll bring it up a little closer. I'm going to follow up here with a brief story that I'm going to end with about not this particular card actually, but the player and the card of him, but not this exact one. But yeah, as you can see, so you get the lines on here from the top loader. This is a pretty old top loader, and actually the sleeve it's in is also this. So like this is, I didn't put it in this way. It came in like this today, and I haven't taken it out of here yet. Eventually I'll have it in a card saver at some point here, but it's a really nice image, centered pretty well. When I do say, it doesn't appear that there are any creases in this card from what I could tell. I'm not an expert at that, but it's got some mark up there. Back isn't too bad though. It's not really stained, which is nice. And I'll leave it on the back here to get to segue into my story here. Anyway, I'm excited to have this in the collection. The Babe Ruth piece to me was really interesting. And also, one last thing before I get to my story. Apparently his nickname at the time was Hobby. So it's like, with a nickname like that, how can one not have a card, for those who, for one person such as me who really enjoys being back in the hobby, let's have a card of Hobby. Why not? It's just a beautiful card, so I really like having this. Okay, so people who are really into T205 might know that there are 4 known variations of this player, which I did not know until after I was kind of considering bidding and winning this. I sort of just did some more digging because once I wanted to be in the auction because of the Cycle piece and because of how good a condition it was. And he was a successful player, and he wasn't like a journeyman. He was a starter for several years, and the whole Babe Ruth story or angle, just thought it was kind of cool to be involved in this and pick this up. So there are 4 variations of this card, though, and the rarest variation of this card has no statistics on the back. And I don't know how rare it is, but if you look at, actually, now I'm going to leave this here and pull up my computer because it's actually going to involve showing some things on here if I can do this easily here. So let's see if I can get this vertical. There we go. So let me scroll up. So here are the 4 variations of Hoblitzel. And the one I have is this third one right here. Here's 4, 3, 2, and 1. So here's the one I have here. It's nope, sorry, I take that back. I have this one right here. It's this one I have, the second one here. Let me go this way with this. It's actually going to be better that way. You could see more of the prices. Although now where'd they go? Bear with me here. I should have had it like that. Here we go. Okay. Yes. So mine is Sin After Second 1908 stats. Right there, easily to see there. And so there's a variation with no stats on the back, as you can see. And in a 1, like the PSA book value is $4,500. It's basically one of the like priciest cards in the whole set in that variation. And so that was interesting to me. And so what as many people might do after they are either in an auction already or they just picked up something, they might see other ones just like it. And so, I watched several of those just to see how those might do and just to sort of get a sense of how I did on my bid. Did I do okay on it? Wouldn't you know it, there was another auction going on for a Hoblitzel cycle, and it had no stats on the back. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Let me look at this. It turned out it was a Greg Morris card. It was a Greg Morris card, and it's right here. I'm going to pull it up right here. But as you may have just seen already, I'll give it away real quick because I'm really dragging this out, I know. And if you're still watching, I appreciate it. Thank you. The listing was ended by the seller because there was an error in the listing. You're seeing that already there. Here is the card. They ended this earlier this week, as you see, August 8th. It was, oh gosh, I was looking at it and following it for a couple of days, and the bid was like at $10, $12, and maybe 4 or 5 bidders had bid on it, but it was obviously going to go way, way higher at some point as the auction went on. Here's the back. What do you think of that back? To me, this was obvious, and I'm not a grader or by any means, but the shade, like the shade of white where the stats would normally be, is a lot lighter than the rest of the card. And so I was like, I did a sort of a double take. I looked at it again and was like, wait a minute, no, that cannot be like that. Like, that's got to be altered. Has to be, right? I mean, someone must have taken some kind of implement or something and really gently wiped off or took off that very top layer of paper, because it just looks too obvious, to try to pass for a no stats variation. I felt like I needed to reach out to Greg Morris about this. I hesitated for maybe a day, and then I saw the card was still there, and so I'm like, you know what? I need to reach out to him. I sent them an email, and as long story short, they took it down and thanked me for it. So if I can actually, let me get all this. There we go. Okay. So I wrote them a message right here. Yes, that's my eBay handle right there. So. Imagine you've already received a message about this, but it seems quite possible this card may have been altered on the back, removing stats in between the bio and the cycle ad, yada, yada, yada. I put my, I put my YouTube address in there, not for like promotion, but more like just in any way to say I'm granted I have 300 something subs and I love that, but you could see my face. I'm not trying to like pull one over them, so to speak. So I wanted to be, legit about it, or as convincing in that regard as possible. I was surprised to get an email back from them. They wrote back to me pretty quickly, actually, later that day. They said, "Hi there. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We've ended the auction. We'll relist the card with a revised title. They'll put altered stock on it, most likely, because I think that's a type of thing they can do." So, yeah, I thought that was I don't know. I thought that was I don't want to call it a good deed, but maybe that's what it was. So I just felt like I needed to do it. And it's something I wouldn't normally do, and I was surprised that the listing was up for that long. So yeah, they ended up taking it down. They'll relist it if you're interested in an altered stock variation of that of this card. But that's all I wanted to share. There's my story. Really excited to pick this up. Will I get a couple of more T205s over time? Yeah, I think I will. I'd like to get an AL variation or an AL picture, like I said before. There's one player I potentially have in mind. We'll see how that goes. Really, that's it for the video. Coming up on 20 minutes here, so that will be all for today. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I should have a grading video, hopefully on Monday for you. and 2 days from now. So with that, take care.